Smart RV fans, welcome back. My name is Joe Symmes. I'm the owner and head technician at Fixin RV, joined by my co-host, John Vanek.
Yeah, I'm John Vanek with Ridgeback RV Services in beautiful northern Nevada. And like Joe, I am the head technician. I'm also the assistant technician. I'm the only technician.
John, would you call yourself the CEO also?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
CEO, CFO, COO. Just call me Mr. C-Suite.
You're the
How's that?
whole C-suite. All you one-man businesses out there understand. It sounds funny because it's so painfully true.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the term solopreneur. That's like, oh, yeah, I'm a solopreneur. It means you work all by yourself.
Yeah.
You do
Means nobody
everything.
loves you.
So how are things in beautiful Gulfport, Mississippi?
This is the time of year when the air conditioner shuts off for a few hours right at sunrise. We're going to enter fall here pretty soon, and we're still hanging on to the last bit of summer, but October is sort of kind of when we turn the corner. However,
Do you start seeing, do you start hearing the flocks, the flapping of wings and the honking of the snowbirds as they start heading into your neck of the woods?
the snowbirds are getting ready. It's a few more weeks, maybe a Thanksgiving dinner with the kids way up north, and then the time for Grandma and Grandpa to head on down here,
So
and then
that's
they live here.
so that's when it really hits is kind of after Thanksgiving. Is that kind of
Yeah,
the big turning point?
yeah, exactly. Probably by weather, it'd be time to move now. But I find a lot of my customers they like to do either Thanksgiving or Christmas or some of the major holidays back at home, and then head on down. And yeah, they're here through, I don't know, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, something like that.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, we're kind of we've had a little bit of a cold spell here for a little taste of deeper autumn. All of a sudden we're getting some furnace calls. Hey, my
Oh,
furnace isn't working. Yeah. So yep, it's a beautiful time of year here and a beautiful time to be RVing no matter where you are, unless maybe you're, going to be in the far north during the wintertime. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but a lot of people live in RVs full time all over the country. So these weather issues are really a factor that we all need to be aware of and thinking about what we're doing. I'm getting calls now also. People are asking about winterizing, but they're also like, hey, it's getting cold, but I might want to use my rig another, one or two times. Do I need to do a full winterization, de-winterize if I want to go away for a weekend? So, not to talk about winterizing, probably coming up in an upcoming episode, but my point is that in the shoulder seasons, these are the sort of the issues that RVers have to be aware of.
yeah,
Don't you
it's
think?
always a tough call whenever you say, am I going to put it away for the year? And then you get that one last warm weekend, and I'm certain for those of you all that have winter storage issues, you're kicking yourself then, or do we wait a little longer and all of a sudden a cold snap on a Wednesday and here you are after work, flashlight in mouth, trying to winterize after dinner.
It's why you always have a headlamp. See, hands free with a headlamp.
Brilliant.
Uh, so for our regular listeners, we typically kick off our episodes with a segment called Beside the Pedestal. These are, simple tips, tricks, and ideas that many of you might be familiar with, and it's worth reminding you, but there's also some new information here. So little quiz. So you pull up to your campsite. Let's say it's a nice warm day in Gulfport, Mississippi.
I'm
You
loving
set
this.
everything up, okay?
Yeah.
And you roll out your awning because there's a little bit of sun. Okay, now you sit down in the shade.
Yeah.
And what do you do now?
Pop a cold one.
Good answer. What's the second thing you do? While you stand up, while you're standing up to go pop that cold one, what is something that you might do if you haven't done it already? And I'll give you a clue. It has to do with your awning.
Yes, I normally at this point will channel my inner John Vanek and say, what should I be doing right now? And as I'm staring at the currently extended awning, I think, you know what? Now's a great time to take a picture of the data tag on the roll tube while it's out. What do you
There
think?
you go. There you go. You're the man. Yep. Yep. And just for our listeners' edification, this was totally unrehearsed.
No, no.
No, not at all.
We're not that good.
Yeah. So here's my beside the pedestal tip of the week is, and we've talked about taking photographs, recording your data tags on your appliances, everything. Anything that has a data tag, you should retain that photograph or write down those numbers, both the serial number, the part number, the manufacturer. Many parts will have a date code on them. And if you can either get a photograph and, retain it where you know what that's for, great. But in awnings, typically, if you're sitting with your back to your rig and the awning is out in front of you, you might look up in the upper left-hand corner of the awning once it's deployed.
Leading
There could
edge.
be the leading edge, right? There could be a tag on the fabric itself. It could be on the roll tube, but you can also look inside the arms that are
Yeah.
attached
Yeah.
to the rig itself, and you might find a data tag there. But these are really important to have because, one big wind gust and, it's common. The whole thing gets destroyed or a big part of it. You've got to tear everything off to go home or whatever. And you might be throwing away your data tags. And it's not an insurmountable problem, but it's a whole lot easier when you call up a tech or you take it into a shop and say, hey, look, here's the data tag from what I had, and
Yeah.
I need a
No.
replacement.
Especially, this goes double. If your awning gets stuck in, for example, and you say, well, I wonder how to fix it. A tech is going to want to know what model do you have?
Absolutely. And that. Hey, good point. Any information you have, the better. And it helps the RV owner because it cut down time, just the research time and the poking around time, trying to figure out what model. And again, I think it's important to stress on a lot of things that, for instance, not all awnings made and built by Carefree of Colorado are the same model.
Right. Right.
And in your various awnings, you might have a torsion spring installed, you might not. And like some Carefree have the torsion springs, some don't. And so, as an example, that again, knowing exactly what model, and if it doesn't say the model name, the part number and the data tag will give us the information so we can find out what it is. All this is useful information.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's good stuff to go ahead and have, record, save in your reference binder for your RV. So, John, for my beside the pedestal of the week, I'm going to turn the tables and give you a quiz.
Ooh, okay, bring it on.
So, how roughly, you don't have to be exact, and please don't get up and go count, how many GFCIs do you have in your house?
Oh, uh, I'm going to take answer D, which is I have more in my house than I have in my RV.
That's where I'm going, is how many in, your lovely travel trailer you have? How many in there? Exactly. So, should that GFCI trip, there's only, there can be multiple outlets on one GFCI plug, downstream from the plug. RV manufacturers don't frequently use GFCI breakers. They wire to a GFCI outlet and put other outlets downstream of that, thus receiving the ground fault circuit interrupter protection. And so the key here is to know where your one outlet is. So if you are at a campground and you've popped you're all set up, you put the awning out, you popped a cold one, then you went and took a picture of your data tag and you think, what would Joe do? You go find your one GFCI and note its location.
So let me ask you this. Is it possible let's just think about our fifth wheel or our travel trailer or our Class A, it doesn't matter. But for a moment, if we can envision it as four walls and you're going to have outlets somewhere along, let's just say all four walls, if it's a bigger unit or at least three walls. Is it possible that if your GFCI were to trip, that you could have power at an outlet, you still have power at an outlet, then you don't have power. Maybe you don't have power, the next kind of down the wall, then you do have power. Is it possible that the things are wired so it doesn't make sense?
Yes. The easy answer, listeners, you all can help me with this. There's lots of things on RVs that don't make sense. Always choose that answer when given multiple choice. Yeah, John, that's definitely possible because there could be some non-GFCI outlets intermixed with GFCI protected outlets, and it doesn't seem from the outside like there's a logic pattern to it.
There you go. Yeah. And, in our homes, typically we find our GFCI outlets in the kitchen and the bathroom where there's the potential of water hitting the outlets. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And in an RV, you might find your GFCI nowhere near the water, although those outlets have some protection from the
Right.
GFCI.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be in a storage bay, they could be outside, obviously in a, bathroom or a kitchen near a sink area, those kinda make logic sense, but a lot of times people don't think about the, outside or definitely the storage bay outlets. Manufacturers will frequently make those GFCI protected.
Yep. And a lot of RVs on a non-GFCI outlet, there will be a label that says GFCI protected. So that lets you know that that's got the protection. But the bottom line here is, and we stress this so often, that life becomes much easier when you really begin to understand your particular rig. And in this case, know where your GFCI, and you might have more than one, but just know where it is because, you might decide, coming into winter, you might have a couple lamps going or something plugged in, and maybe you decide to use a space heater, which we should talk about that when things get colder, or maybe you decide to make a cup of coffee and you plug in the coffee maker, and all of a sudden, something happens and a couple lights go out. You just want to be able to go over and reset the GFCI. And is there a process that you should go through when you're resetting your GFCI? If you don't know what it is, why don't you tell us what's it look like, and then how do you reset it?
Yeah, great question. You'll want to unplug things from the outlet, take the load off,
So how do
ideally
how,
any.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in. How do I know which outlet is the GFCI outlet?
Yeah, great question. They'll have, 2 buttons on them. Sometimes they're the same color as the outlet and hard to see, especially if they're darker colors. Sometimes one will be red and the other white or something, so, you can't necessarily go by color, but there will be buttons on. One is a test button, the other's a reset. Sometimes there'll be a little light even to help you find it, and sometimes the light will go out when it's been tripped, and when you push the reset button, it comes back on. Those are nice, not but you won't find it every time. You're going to be looking for an outlet with buttons, and sometimes, since they're thicker plugs themselves, the outlet will be protruding or proud of the wall some. It may not necessarily be flush with the wall.
And so you want to hit the test button, which kind of helps the first part of the reset, and then you push the button that says reset. And I agree, it can be very difficult to see which button is which, but when you push in that reset button, it'll click, it'll grab, and all of a sudden you have power back on. And like you said, a lot of the outlets, you might have a little green light that comes on and lets you know, yeah,
Right, right.
it's all good.
An- Another kind of electrician tip, if there isn't power going to it, a lot of times they won't reset. So if something's
Ah.
happened upstream and a breaker is tripped or power to the pedestal was lost and the GFCI tripped, you won't be able to reset it because there isn't power on one side of the switch waiting to be reset, basically.
Yeah, good point. So this brings us, to that broader topic of understanding how the electrical systems work in our RVs. You might think that it's a GFCI problem, and maybe it is, but there could also be other things going on. And if your 12-volt lights are working and you lose power to the rig, they're still going to work. But again, rather we're not going down that trail tonight, but understanding the different sources of power, how different sources of power can be interrupted or fail. And in this case, the GFCI is a simple one. You just need to know where the GFCI is.
Yeah, take
Yeah.
time to locate it now before it's an emergency.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Break out
Well,
your
it's
headlamp, start crawling around. So let's move on now to our call of the week segment where Joe and I share interesting calls that we've had over the past week or so.
yeah, so
And
tell me about the wonderful Northern Nevada customers that you've had this week. What exciting calls did you feel, John?
oh, well, let's see. Everything from air conditioner replacement, an R&R on that.
Oh.
Quickie step. I've had 2 quickie step calls. It's interesting. I think I may have mentioned this in our last video. I went months without any real plumbing calls and then ended up doing 3 toilet R&Rs, removal and replacement in about 8 days. And all of a sudden we get quickie step calls. This is an interesting I'd like to share because understanding our rigs, and it's a point that I continually try and do with my own rig. But a lot of people, more and more people, either are buying rigs with a tankless water heater system, or you'll find people replacing their traditional RV water heater tank with a tankless water system. So maybe a Girard, a Furrion, a Truma. And what they
There's a new
might not be
Suburban
aware of,
tankless, yeah.
that's right, brand new Suburban tankless is out, but these tankless water heaters, they need to be descaled on a
How do we
regular
do that?
basis. Well, this is something, this is a interesting job because it's something that a lot of DIYers can easily do. It is not technically difficult. And there's videos out there. Lippert has a couple, both for Girard tankless and Furrion, but the process is pretty much the same for all of them. And what you need to do is access the back of the water heater. That might be the most
It
challenging piece right there,
it
right?
ha
You need to shut off the water and then you detach the water, the cold water inlet, and you detach the hot water outlet. And then you need to have a little kit. And that kit is basically a 5-gallon bucket filled with 4 gallons of 5% vinegar with a water pump in it. And then you need a couple of hoses, and you run one hose from the water pump into the cold water side. So they're connected on both ends. And then you need to have another hose that's coming off of the hot water outlet from the tankless water heater. And that goes back into the bucket.
So, John, to be clear, you need to be familiar enough with your pump to know which side is the output, and then connect the output of the pump to the cold. I think you said the cold
Yes.
on the water heater.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks for reinforcing that. Yeah, because otherwise you might have issues. And then you get to turn it on and let it sit for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, letting the vinegar cycle through the tank. You want to do it, manufacturer's instructions, 45 to 60 minutes.
Wow.
And
During that
yeah,
time, could you take pictures of your awning and find your GFCIs?
yes, you could. And as a tech, this is the sort of interesting kind of job in the sense that if you call me up and ask me to come out and do this descaling for you, once I get going and I hit go on the water pump, I'm not going to twiddle my thumbs. For you for the next hour. There's lots of things I can do. It's a good time to do a roof inspection, help you find your GFCI. A really good thing that people who are not stationary, it's not so important if you're stationary, but it's always good. But if you are moving, you're using your RV as a road warrior, your electrical connections in your power distribution panel, the screws in there, they can loosen up over time. So that's a great time.
Yeah.
I get my torque screwdriver. I go in there and I make sure all the torque values are proper for the different connections. So there's a
And
lot of
where
things we can do.
where could you find those torque values?
If you look actually on the panel itself, it's going to give you the torque values for both your breakers on your 110 or 120 side and also your 12-volt side.
Okay,
But
perfect.
anyway, as a tech, it's there's always something I can do, and I'm going to make use of that hour. A lot of times, it's just what you and I both call owner education.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Owner, what questions do you have about your rig? And then it opens the door. But we make use of that hour because then after that hour of flushing with the vinegar, we need to stop, empty out the bucket of vinegar, fill it with water. We might want to be cleaning the filter. We need to actually drain the bottom portion of the tank. The tankless water heater does have a little bit of a tank, I guess.
It
It's the
does.
residual.
Co Common misconception, there is a small collection tank in a tankless heater.
So there's a drain plug. So we want to drain it. And then we want to hook up and we want to flush water back through for like another 20 or 30 minutes. So we're flushing for a good, let's call it anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And depending on how often you're using your RV, you might be doing this a couple times a year. But anyway, there's plenty of time to do other things while we're there.
It may
But
be, a good time to check your sediment filter in your onboard 12-volt water pump.
yeah, yeah, lots of little things that could be done. Absolutely. But again, the call here is not so much what I experienced, but as a reminder that if you do have a tankless water system, it does need to be descaled. What's your
No,
call of the
excellent
week?
point.
Or
S So, I've had, 2 different customers this week, ironically, with questions on their leveling systems. Now, both of these happen to be Lippert, owned company. It's LCI branded leveling systems and, ground control systems, but many of the manufacturers, and I think all the LCI products, use the same kind of logic. But the customers were confused. They said, "I think everything's working properly, um, but sometimes I become level but high, as in a wheel is off the ground. And I thought I
ah,
read somewhere online like that's not good, which is correct. But do you know, so John, I'll quiz you. Why don't you want one of the tires, more specifically, to be off the ground when the rig is level?
well, it could start floating away or something if it's off the ground, right? I mean, it just start levitating, right?
Yeah,
No, that's
yeah,
not it.
exactly. Close. No, you're wrong. Yeah, those poor jacks. When your jacks are extended, they're very strong pushing the rig up. They're not braced horizontally, and so they're not rated for side loads necessarily. And when you've properly parked and chalked your wheels, like we've discussed many times, that's your brake. And if you're on the least bit of an incline and the wheel comes off the ground and it's no longer in contact, you lose that friction
Yeah.
and in a worst case scenario, the rig could start to move or slide or snap a jack or something. But more likely, just a few degrees out of level, but it puts a great side load on the jacks, which is just really hard on the seals inside and not a good safety practice.
And that's the sort of thing that if you didn't know that it's improper to have the tires off the ground, just over time, you mentioned seals, but you could probably also end up with torsion in the metal legs themselves
Right, right.
that you would have problems somewhere down the road.
Yeah, yeah. And really dumb question here, but do you know an easy way to tell if your wheels are off the ground?
Bend them.
Exactly. If you've
Hey!
been doing your good job, Ridgeback. Insert phone number here. So, if you've been doing your maintenance, yeah, the tires will fairly freely spin by hand, and sometimes if you're in grass or, soft sand or something, you may not realize it might even appear to be on the ground, it's only, up a
Sure.
millimeter or something, but if you kinda push it with your foot and realize, "Ooh, I turned that thing a quarter turn pretty easy," therefore it wasn't in contact with terra firma.
So, again, coming back to the concept of understanding your rig, the legs are going to be extending some length that it's going to start doing that lift. So, when you are working with your rig and getting to know your rig, you should probably have just kind of a visual idea, like, gee, that leg looks like it's kind of extended
It's
more than it should be, right?
longer than I've ever seen it before, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go, and that's a
And
clue.
and even more to this point, a lot of folks will use some sort of leveling blocks. I forget the manufacturer, but there's a red can that some people sometimes use.
Yep, yep.
Looks like a little upside down bucket. And the reason they're using those is it allows the leg to extend less of the hydraulic shaft coming out. And that does two things. It's less exposed to the elements, so less corrosion, less pitting, less environmental issues on the hydraulic shaft itself. But also, the shorter the leg, the more stable the leg. When a two,
Sure.
2 foot leg is extended a foot and a half, it has more chance to wiggle. So if it's only out 2 or 3 inches, it's going to be more anti-shake, more side-to-side stable. So those are a couple reasons you might want to put some blocking, some dunnage. It depends on where you're from. Some things underneath to minimize the jack stroke. But that also allows the jack to mechanically go much further and potentially lift your rig off the ground if you're not careful. So first tip is, yeah, be very careful when you level to make sure you're not level but super high level. There's level
Uh-huh.
at a lower altitude. So how do you do that is the question. And really what my sorry for the extremely long intro there, but now we're down to really why my customers called. They'd say, "Hey, I hit auto level and the darn thing just keeps on going."
Uh,
Yeah. So some owner education here is a ounce of prevention, pound of cure kind of situation. So to begin with, I've owned several rigs with a different auto leveling system, some by HWH, some LCI, different things like that. They all work best when you give them a head start in life. They're like our kids, you want to give them the best start you can. And the way we do that is you start out relatively level to begin with. Don't make that auto level. Don't make it perform a miracle to get you level. So how do you do that? You can go into, and I've advised customers this many times, specifically on the Lippert LCI system, you can go into manual mode and manually put front jacks down, rear jacks, whatever you might need to begin to get it pretty close. And
mm.
then you can hit auto level and let it kind of finish the job. Now, once you hit auto level, do you know the sequence of logic and what the little brain and the computer is doing next, John?
No, but you're going to tell me.
I am. Thank you for asking. What a great student. So the first thing it's going to do is check. Yeah, I'm a Navy guy, so I'm going to put some of these in nautical terms. Our audience will love this. So it levels fore and aft first. So it's going to
There we go.
push down the front
Which
end.
which which for the non-nautical folk is front and back. Well, I'll translate. Okay,
Thanks.
front and back. Okay, go ahead.
It's
Go
gonna
ahead.
push down on the bow, and we're gonna get level front to back, stem to stern. And the reason for that is to help you initially get off the truck and get unhitched, whether it's a fifth wheel or travel trailer. And then after getting relatively level, front to rear, it's then going to extend one of the rear jacks, not both. It will extend the one on the lowest side because it's thinking, I want to get level now, left and right, or port and starboard.
Uh-huh.
This way and that way.
Do you know?
So,
Well, I know you know this, but from this goes way back in my early childhood. Because my dad was a Navy man. Okay, you guys were both naval officers. So, but um, understanding how to remember port and starboard, which is left and right, and port is 4 letters, like left, and it ends in a T. So that's, so port is to the left and starboard is to the right. That's how I
I
learned
like
that.
that. You can also
See?
remember the boat left the port is a true statement.
Oh, my dad never taught me that one. Okay.
That's
I,
that's
I, I
that's
digress there. Go
that's
ahead.
that's I guess that's new Navy. So the rear jacks, one will extend on the lowest side and level you port and starboard. So then the computer will say, okay, now that I did that, how is my fore and aft looking? Oh, nope. By pushing down on maybe we'll say the left rear, it's great because I'm leveled left, right, port and starboard now, but now my front end's too low. And so it will extend the front again, and then it will check with the rear, and it will kind of keep cycling, keeping this do loop back and forth. Now, the other thing to remember, nowhere in this logic did I ever say it will retract a little bit. all all this system does is add. And so if it says to itself, hey, I'm 0.2 degrees out, I'm going to just bump it, it turns on, solenoid turns on, hydraulic fluid pressurizes, jacks extend, solenoid turns off, and jacks stop extending, but that might have gone too far. So it extends on the rear. Oh, that might have gone too far. So it extends on the front. Oh, that might have gone too far. And so sometimes it will just kind of keep walking, um, kind of walk the ladder and go up a little too high before it eventually gets satisfied.
And that's where we get the tires coming off the ground.
Exactly. So you can give it a big advantage, kind of summarize here, by starting out as level as possible, either with some blocks or choosing a better campground, whatever you need to do. And then you can manually level to try and get it kind of close. And then sometimes that's good enough. You know what? You're saying I'm smart in the computer. I win. Let's just stop there, and we can go to taking our awning tag pictures now. Other times you
Yep.
may say, "Hey, my buddy's the next campsite over. Want this a little more level. I paid for this system. I'm going to use it. Darn it!" And you hit the auto level, and you walk away. As a tech, my last kind of caution is I'd kind of keep watching your rig though as it's leveling because I have seen things go wrong and the computer gets confused and all of a sudden it thinks left is right and right is left and it just keeps on extending. And while I haven't seen a rig turn itself over, I've seen enough people go, "What are they doing?"
So you're hitting auto level, and let's just say it's not finding its happy space, right, or place. So it's moving, 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 and all of a sudden you're thinking, wait a minute, I want to stop this. What's the process for stopping the movement and then restarting the whole process or what would you do at that point?
Excellent question. On most systems, basically any key is your answer. You can hit auto level again, you can hit cancel, you can hit the power button. Most systems that I've ever experienced, that defeats it and stops in its tracks. The next thing you're going to do is hit retract all. And before you do that, though, you're going to want to make sure your steps aren't extended, things like that, because it's going to come down. Retract all is different than when you're in manual mode and you go into retraction and you ask it to draw in a jack or two. Retract all is a different logic, different set of solenoids, and it's everything at once. Um, be careful. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me give you a big caution here. Be careful when you retract all, because if the truck is not, if fifth wheel and the truck's not under it, or if the travel trailer and the jack's not down, yeah, you can have the front end in the dirt real fast. So yeah, let me give caution here. If the truck's under it, then you can retract all. If not, and you cancel the auto level, go back into manual and then retract, and that will more gently lower it down.
Got it. Yeah. It's always a good cautionary tale that when we're doing something, particularly when it comes to setting up and tearing down, arriving, getting ready to depart, if something is out of whack, we see something different for whatever reason, our usual process is not occurring. That's also a good time to stop and remind ourselves, okay, wait a minute. Let's go back and make sure that the truck is in place to catch the front of the fifth wheel, or there's nothing underneath. Just kind of do a full mental reset to make sure we don't compound whatever problem we've sort of fallen into.
Right,
Does that
right.
make sense?
Yes, sir. Exactly. And great tip, great advice. Yeah. And I guess the last thing to remember about retract all and where I was kind of going is it's a different logic, different set of circuits. So I recently had a rig that was actually wired backwards. And so when they hit extend, it retracted. When they hit retract, it extended.
Uh-oh.
And that's how they ended up at with a port list that was quite extreme as they kept trying to retract and it kept making it worse and worse and worse. And they said, "What do we do? What do we do?" And so in that case, retract all is again different logic, different circuit. It opens up all the valves, allows all the fluid in the hydraulic legs to go back into the reservoir, and it brings everything back down. So you can get a new baseline, get a new reset. But again, use extreme caution on a fifth wheel because it can lower the front down dangerously low that you might cause damage to the front end.
You bet. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, again, these are all things, the conveniences are built into the RVs. sometimes, right? The conveniences of auto leveling is built in, but we should not take that as that it's always going to work perfectly
Right, right.
and as designed. Kind of
And
all
under
comes back to knowing your rig.
Yeah, exactly, and understanding that's kind of my hope with this section is understanding the logic and why is it keep going front, rear, oh, the left just went front, rear. That's what it's doing.
Well, I want to remind our listeners that if you have questions about your rig, the systems in your rig, just general RV questions, you can always send them to us. Our email is contact us smart-rv.com.
Contact us at smartrv.com. I got it, John, I got it.
Got it. Right on. And it's also in the show notes. Well, hey, I think that's about it for today, Joe. And I'm sure we'll be talking here soon. We'll be back here next week. But hey, enjoy your weather while you're turning your air conditioners off for like 1 or 2 hours a day.
And you enjoy a beautiful northern Nevada. I'm sure you've got great leaf changing season and the pumpkin spice
Yep.
lattes are flowing. So you enjoy the fall that we're going to have later.
Okay. We are. All right. Well, hey, take care, buddy. And we look forward to chatting next week. And to all our listeners, thank you so much. You know, to subscribe, like, do all those things. And again, ask us any questions about your rig, and we will address them in a future issue or episode. Excuse me. All right. You take care, Joe. We'll see you
Yeah,
soon.
you too, John. So long.
All right. Good night.